Пісня на вірші українського генія Тараса Шевченка. Його пам'ятник стоїть також у Вашингтоні, столиці Сполучених Штатів Америки, який символізує демократію, свободу, протест. Цей перший мінімалістичний твір до бандури виник тоді, коли ще навіть такого терміну, як мінімалізм у музиці, не існував. Наш дует синтезує струни Соломії Мороз, неперевершений електронщицею, композиторкою флейтисткою, дуже ретельно готувався, щоб зустрітися з вами сьогодні тут, у музичному серці Нью-Йорка. Ми підготували справді унікальну програму і хотіли грати для вас цього вечора, вітати вас після концерту, усміхатися, спілкуватися, привіт. У першій годині ночі, 24 лютого, я закінчив доповнювати аплікаційні форми на в'їзд до Сполучених Штатів на Ukrainian Contemporary Music Festival на сьогоднішню зустріч, а через 3 години почалася війна. Ми спали, і нам зателефонувала мама моєї дружини і сказала 2 слова. 2 слова, які перевернули свідомість. Слова, які я чув від бабусі, від мого тата, які розповідали про свою пам'ять початку Другої світової війни на території України у 1941 році. 2 слова, які вже закарбувалися в моєму серці назавжди. 2 слова, які в одну мить змінили мільйони життів тут, в Україні. Війна почалася. Для нас почався тиждень у бомбосховищах, але ніби правді діти. Це звичайні підвали будинків, які хіба що можуть врятувати від осколків. Зараз моя дружина, моя 2-річна донечка у безпеці. В столиці так залишаються мої батьки, родичі, друзі. Вся Україна у великій небезпеці. Ми виїжджали без нічого. Кілька пар щоденного одягу і харчі на дорогу. Цей прекрасний інструмент мені щиро позичив мій друг Богдан Петров, за що я дуже вдячний. І таким способом можу підтвердити нашу Соломію несвідому відсутність на цій сцені в American Hall and Coleman Music Center. Ми вдячні нашому другу Julianu Kytasty, який сьогодні гратиме для вас, його компаньйону Coleman, Лії Бетстоу за запрошення всім, хто долучився до організації фестивалю цього року. Вдячний вам, слухачам, хто прийшов слухати українську музику. Разом з Соломією Мороз ми маємо велике сподівання все ж таки зіграти для вас нашу музику на фестивалі в наступному році. Слава Україні!
Добрий вечір. It's very strange for me it's a very strange feeling to be coming here tonight to play when just a few weeks ago I was expecting to come to listen to Volodya and Solomia do their wonderful stuff. But I'm glad to be able to, in this way, represent something that both Volodya and I have been very concerned with in the last many years. He's probably my closest bandura friend in Ukraine, and what really brought us together is the idea that this type of bandura, the Kharkiv bandura, can be an instrument for contemporary music. It's a concept, the Kharkiv bandura, which was developed in that city in the 1920s. But there were courses, instruments were being made, all of it around the figure of one man, Pleshkevych, who developed this idea of how to take the very simple instrument of the local blind singers, the kobzari, and take that instrument almost without changes and turn it into something that could become a modern concert instrument. Unfortunately, in the 1930s, the students were all scattered, the courses shut down, Kytasty himself was arrested and shot. In recent years, we had the case where we had this instrument. We had a concept of what it could do potentially, and a few attempts at going there, a couple of pieces from Kytasty himself and from his students. But essentially, it was an instrument with amazing possibilities and no literature. So for at least 20 years, I've been working on trying to find some of those possibilities. And the most effective way that I could find to do that was to work improvisationally, doing improvised and semi-improvised pieces, trying out some of these ideas, trying out some concepts. And then also, I found it very fruitful to work with in theater. I've been doing music for shows here in New York and in Ukraine with Yara Arts Group. You'll hear in this first little set, preludes and interludes, you'll hear some of these, let's call them preludes, that I've been playing over the years, and also a couple of pieces from Yara shows, which generally have been interludes. So that's where that title comes from. So that'll be the first part of this set, and for the second part, I'll be joined by Anthony Coleman, a truly amazing pianist. I think many of you know that. Anyway, so here we go with a first prelude. This uses an unusual tuning, which comes out of the idea that the bandura is, this bandura was really a modal instrument. So, you kind of had what you tuned on the strings, and that didn't have to be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. It could be 8 years ago. It was right when Maidan was happening in Kiev. We were doing, with Yara Arts Group, a New York production of a very light but deeply researched piece called Captain John Smith Goes to Ukraine, something which really happened. But like in many theater pieces, sometimes there's a need for the musicians, or musician in this case, to play a little, just to play for a little while, so that something else could happen, so that the scene could change, so that time could pass, so that actors could go backstage and change. So this is a piece which is also an exploration of the possibilities of the Kharkiv bandura, but in a little different style. It's called Travel Music. So that was short, and I'll continue with another interlude from a different show. A couple of years ago, we did a show called 1917-2017, which was based on poetry, some by our contemporary poetry by our friend Serhiy Zhadan, a Kharkiv poet who's now in Kharkiv. And at the time we did the show, he'd been writing a lot about the Donbass conflict as it was at that time. And we used a lot of these, we used some of these poems. And we also used a set of poems by a poet from 100 years ago, writing about a different war, writing about how people behave in wartime. A collection called Instead of Sonnets and Octaves by Pavlo Ticina. And one of the actors in that show is with us today, Maria Pleshkevych.
Antistrophe, Eidoplanet, from Pavlo Ticina's Instead of Sonnets and Octaves, translated by Julian Kytasty and Wanda Phipps.
Maria Pleshkevych. So I'll conclude this first short set with another prelude. And this is a slightly different, odd tuning. This one works like so. And now I'd like to ask Anthony Coleman, one of the great pianists I've encountered, to come on out. And there he is. And for this this part of the program, I use the title "Conversations," which in some ways was just a placeholder, but really conversations are what music is all about, and not just in terms of musicians communicating on stage, but also for me the conversation is very important with the people whose tradition you are continuing. And so for these conversations will be with music that's hundreds of years old, that comes from the tradition of the blind singers, the Kobzari. And the first piece, like many of these songs, is a conversation between that time and today. In one of the epic songs about captives in captivity in the Ottoman Empire, the slave girl Marusa finds a way to release some captives from the dungeon, and they set out on their escape. And she sends them on their way with the words, take good care, bypass all the cities, all the towns, all the high roads, the beaten paths in the steppe. Make your way through the brambles, through the ravines, because they're going to be coming after you. And now we're reading posts about experiences exactly like that from people who are driving their babies, in city cars down really bad roads to get away. So, from Marusa Bohuslavka. We'll call this piece Thickets and Brambles, Thickets and Ravines. It's about that trip and things that may or may not happen on the way. Тож часу не гайте, добре відбайте, в дорогу далекою, в города вирушайте. Та ще ви добре дбайте, города всі степові оминайте. Та дороги всі степові оминайте. Тернами, байраками шлях свій прокладайте. Ой, визволь нас, Господи, з тяжкої московської неволі. На тихі води, на ясній зорі, на тихі води, на ясній зорі, на ясній зорі вкрай веселий, на ясній зорі вкрай веселий, в городах, в городах So we'll finish with another piece from a few hundred years ago, and from the tradition of the Kobzari. So you don't think that this instrument was just here as a prop, I'm actually going to play it. But this is a reproduction of the type of instrument that the blind singers would have actually played. And they were never very popular with imperial governments, you know, because they sang songs about important things. This is information war song from 300 or 400 years ago, which, it's about how there's no more truth in the world because lies, falsehood, have started calling themselves truth. Нема в світі правди не зіскати, бо тепер неправда стала вже правдою зватись. For now, truth is trampled underfoot, and falsehood wined and dined. For now, truth is cast into the deepest dungeon, and falsehood sits in the councils of power. Що вже тепер правду ногами топтають, а вражу неправду мед вином напувають, що вже тепер правда у темниці, а вража неправда з панами в світлиці. Що вже кінець віка, кінець приблизився, хоч рідного брата тепер стережися. It's as if the end of the age has come, and you can't trust even your own brother anymore. It's as if truth has truly died and falsehood has gobbled up the world. But those who walk in the way of truth shall receive great blessings. For God is truth, and shall crush falsehood, and chastise pride, and raise high the temple. Бо само Господь правда сокрушить неправду, сумирить гординю, вознесе святыню. Well, we'll see what we can do with this kind of tuning.